This is part 2 of Zen Devil. Today we're going to talk about what a Zen Devil is. I'm going to talk about some stories about Zen Devil. And if you haven't seen part 1, you can go to my channel and there's part 1. We're going to go deep in this topic today, so let's get into it right now. So as you guys know, as I'm recording this, it's my birthday, but instead of celebrating, I'm now shooting this video. That's how dedicated I am to making these videos. So if you want to help me out, don't forget to subscribe. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna start with a story and I'm gonna read it from my laptop. So here we go. This story is gonna show you how spirituality can coexist with ego, power, and attachment, leading towards corruption and even violence that contradicts the original intent. So I'm reading from my laptop. It says, more than 1,200 years ago, Saicho founded a monastic center on Mount Hiei in Japan, intended as a strict place of meditation, study, celibacy, and discipline. Over centuries, it became wealthy and powerful, and internal fractions formed. Monks eventually maintained armed warriors bands, and historical records describe violent conflicts with rival groups in which temples were burned and people were killed. Later accounts and critiques of the institution also describe periods of lax discipline in parts of the community, including alcohol use and sexual misconduct. In 1571, Oda Nobunaga, sorry, I don't know how to say that. Oda Nobunaga. Someone from Japan, let me know how you say that. Destroyed much of Mount Hiei, killing many and ending its military power. And these were very sincere practitioners. Even sincere practitioners can justify harmful actions if they believe their insights puts them beyond ordinary ethical limits, which is why many Buddhist traditions emphasize that awakening must be grounded in discipline, humility, and accountability. Talking a little bit about accountability, if you think you got it, if you think I got it, I'm enlightened, I have no ego, I'm free, then words like enlightenment are used to override moral boundaries. So therefore you think everything you do is divine when sometimes it's not. So coming from this frame of being completely healed makes you be able to override moral boundaries. And you probably have heard the word social conditioning before. And in a way there's truth to social conditioning, but also morality gets labeled as social conditioning. And then basic morality is seen as social conditioning and something to be transcended. So you can see how things can get twisted really easily. It's not that you have to be unintelligent to become a Zen Devil. You can be very intelligent, you can be a very hardcore practitioner of spirituality and still turn out to be a Zen Devil. And therefore it requires self-reflection for myself, for yourself, to see how are we behaving? Are we coming from a Zen Devil place, or are we coming from an actual higher place? It's not based on your power and authority in this world, but on love and care for others. And if everything that an authority figure says comes from higher wisdom, then a personal desire from that teacher is now treated as spiritual truth. So we can see how these problems really start to exist. They come from this place of wanting to transcend, wanting to let go of your ego, wanting to be in this freedom of this enlightened state, but then not acknowledging your darkness and actually being ignorant of it, saying it's social conditioning, or saying that's something that we have to be open to and not have anything against. Can lead to all kinds of stuff. Like sexually speaking, there are a ton of people that don't see sex as sex. It's a spiritual energy. It's like you're healing someone with your sex. It's like you're awakening someone with your sex instead of you pursuing those desires. It's not you having sex with someone. It's you spreading this healing energy to other bodies, to awaken them, to heal them. And therefore you're denying that you're just running after your ego. What's fine if you just admit that you're doing that, but instead you cover it up with this spiritual ego that says, I'm gonna heal people and I'm gonna cleanse people with my spiritual energy, with my sexual energy. And I'm not saying that sex is bad per se, I'm just saying that this is all hidden by a spiritual ego. That all of this you hide behind your spiritual ego, so you're still actually doing things from ego, but then instead of saying it's from ego, you say is from your higher self. And it's fine if you do something from ego and you know that you're doing from ego, but the thing is that you don't know because you think it's a spiritual energy. You think you're transcending social conditioning. You think you are free and enlightened, so everything you do is perfect and you have no flaws and you have no darkness and you have no ego. And that is where the problem really sets in. And that's also why you see spiritual teachers do scandalous things, is because they think they have transcended it. They think they have gotten it. They got it. They got enlightened. That's it. So no more growth, no more discipline, nothing necessary to keep yourself accountable because you're healed completely. As compared to someone that's still trying to grow, they know that they're not perfect and they know that they're not completely healed. And they know that there might be some darkness within them. There might be some stuff they need to work on. And then it's easier to be accountable than thinking it's finished, it's over, the journey is over. You have reached the end destination, so who's gonna tell you shit? They don't know it. They don't know anything about it. I know it. I got it. You see, it's all about I got it. I have it. I got it. He doesn't get it. She doesn't get it. I got it. This idea of I got enlightened. I got insight into the universe that they don't got. So therefore, conditioning, morality, all of these things are to be transcended, to letting go of. And this idea of letting go is beautiful, but if this idea of letting go of the ego turns into transcending personal judgment and literally being obedient to a group leader or to a certain teaching without having any questions to it, then whatever the leader or group does, you follow. There's also a term for this, it's called groupthink. On Mount Hiei, when a few people started killing others and defending themselves, now everyone else started to do that as well, called groupthink. And then who are you to stand against what everyone else is doing? Who are you to be having your own judgment about those situations? Who are you to question the leader, the authority figure? Because everything that the authority does comes from higher wisdom, when that's not true. That should be questioned always. An authority figure should always be questioned and be held accountable. And if the leader doesn't want to be questioned, is not a leader, it's a dictator. It's dictating what's going to happen within the group, how people are going to behave. You just got to be obedient. That's not a leader, that's the dictator. A leader should be able to get thousands of questions and be able to just answer them. It doesn't mean he gives the right answer, but at least he's not defending himself. And when we believe the leader becomes the embodiment of truth, we start to believe that the behavior of the leader cannot be questioned because it's divine. Everything that comes from the leader is divine because he is enlightened, so everything he does is divine. He's completely healed. And it's over. So whatever the leader says, we no longer have to question. Do you see how many problems can come from this? And sometimes the accountability for a spiritual group comes from outside of the group, but then the people outside of the group are seen as unaware and they are low vibrational. So you're creating kind of this cult bubble of you guys are conscious and aware and everyone else is unaware and low vibrational. So if some critique comes from outside of the group, it's seen as low vibrational. When something comes inside of the group, even if that's something ridiculous, it's always seen as coming from higher wisdom. Whatever the leader does is from higher wisdom. So you listen to it, you obey to it. So this higher wisdom, this knowledge becomes a power game. As the leader got higher access and people just don't understand it, they don't get it. Therefore, instead of taking accountability, the blame goes to the questioner. And the leader starts blaming others for the lack of understanding, blaming others for their unconscious behavior when they might be behaving unconscious themselves. So you're walking around feeling you could upset the leader with something small little thing that you do because you feel like, oh, he's gonna call me out for being unconscious. He's gonna call me out for behaving unaware. And never anyone says how he does something unconscious or unaware. And therefore, everyone around the leader gets questioned except the leader himself, except his behavior because he's the leader. So everything he does is coming from a conscious place. And what starts to happen is that people don't become aware, they become self-aware out of this idea of, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing this wrong, I'm doing that wrong. They get into this spiral of all the little things that they got blamed for as being unconscious. Well, the leader gets away with everything being conscious, even when it's not, even when it's very violent, even when it's very aggressive, even when it's not at all coming from this loving place that they say they are coming from. And I would recommend you to see the Insta Guru series, because there you see exactly what's being done, where instead of using consent, you're telling a person that they're blocked. They're telling a person that they need to grow more. And in order to grow more, they need to get this sexual healing energy that's not at all having to do with someone pursuing sexual desires. It's a healing awakening that's your next level. And you're being blocked because you're not open to it, or you showing resistance. So you should work on yourself. You're not evolved enough. And this is not something I'm making up. This is literally being done. Go watch the Insta Guru series. Look at what is being done right there, and then you understand how important this topic of a Zen Devil is. Because if you cannot spot Zen Devil within yourself, you cannot spot it in someone else. And because you will never question the authority figure, you will just obey and think that you're blocked, and think that you need to let go of all your conditioning and your morality and your own judgment, that you just surrender your own judgment and trust the leader. And how is this much different from North Korea? If you look at North Korea, everything that comes outside of North Korea is propaganda. It's used as a us versus them perspective. Us as North Korea, we are perfect. We are amazing. But everything outside of it is horrible. It's awful. It's us versus them. This little cult, North Korea is actually like a cult, a big cult, where people get to listen to news that's not true, gets to listen to Kim Jong-un, and everything he says cannot be questioned. When you question him, you get killed. Everyone has to follow orders. He's a dictator. And while he gets all the power, all the money, all the women, everything, he has like 10,000s of women or something that he has slept with, or something like that. That, like, if that's your thing, okay, but it's not done in a normal way. It's a dictator. You can imagine how that will go. So everyone is afraid. When this dictator is there, everyone is afraid to be against the dictator. You even see with a dictator how everyone around them starts to like smile and be acting happy, because otherwise they get to go to prison or maybe even killed. So everyone is obeying like this, they'll be clapping like this. Because what if you have your own judgment? What if you question the leader? What if you question what's happening? And because no one is holding him accountable, he gets away with everything. And that is being used as exploitation. Instead of giving back to the people, he is taking from the people, making them work very hard and getting almost no money in return. And he keeps all the money and power for himself. That's exploitation. And you saw this happen with Bentino as well, where he should never be questioned. And everything that comes in, all the money that comes in goes to him, but he never gives to his followers. He never gives to Keelan. All the work that he has put in, Keelan has put in so much work, he never got paid for it. And once he asked Bentino and others asked Bentino to get paid, they were being called out for being selfish and not being on the mission. When the real selfish person was Bentino himself, but he was enlightened, so he couldn't be questioned. And therefore, all the money was going to Bentino and nothing was going to the people in the cult. They were all not having enough food to eat. There was never any food for anyone. And this is very much how a dictator runs his dictatorship. In North Korea, everyone is poor, no one gets to eat, and they have to work and they have to obey. And that's how spirituality can turn out, and how spiritual teachings can become in the hands of someone that's there to exploit and to take for themselves instead of healing and bettering other people. And therefore shame is being weaponized as being selfish. You're being selfish for asking something that is your own right. You have your right to ask to get paid for work that you do, but instead of your right for asking for the work that you have done, They're gonna shame you for being selfish. Imagine you go to a job. Imagine you go to a job and you work a job, and instead of getting paid, you get paid like 500 euros instead of like 3,000 euros or something. And you go to your boss and you say to your boss, I did all this work, can I get paid? And instead of from your boss getting an explanation why you didn't get paid or getting paid the next month, the salary, instead it flips the script on you. It says, you're doing wrong. How dare you ask this from me? I'm doing so much for you, says the boss who does nothing. And then it totally gaslights you and says that you're being selfish and that you're not on the mission. You're not here for the team. You're here for yourself. That's shame being used. That's guilt being used in order to get more for yourself, because also it's a reflection. Whatever they blame their people off in the community is actually what they're doing themselves. So they blame others for taking while he's taking everything himself. They blame others for their lack of spiritual growth while their lack of spiritual growth is really the problem. They are calling out others in the community, saying how they're not evolved enough, how they're not growing enough, how they're blocked, when themselves are blocked and not growing. So that is why this topic is so important, because now you're able to see what a Zen Devil will do. You're able to see how this could lead to very dark places, and how becoming a Zen Devil actually leads to you yourself, even as a Zen Devil, even as Bentino himself, being blocked, not able to grow further, because he is judging others of that block or not growing. Well, it's actually him not being able to grow further. So you blame others for their lack of growth when it's actually your own lack of growth and maturity. So as for someone that is a little bit more narcissistic, it's easier to blame others than to take accountability themselves. For someone that is more empathetic, it's easier to blame themselves instead of blaming others. So basically the narcissist starts to blame the empath, and the empath starts to listen to the narcissist and says, okay, I'm doing something wrong, I got to evolve, I got to grow, I get to get out of this block. Because they're not willing to blame someone else, they're willing to blame themselves. What is, in a way, you could say is more conscious, but now it's not coming from a conscious place, it's coming from a place of being oppressed and needing to be obedient towards the leader, instead of it's you being your own natural journey. So even though you could say that the empath is acting in a way that's more natural and healing, it's not able to see that who they're listening to is someone to be questioned. So therefore, the healing journey of a narcissist would be to take accountability, to not blame others and guilt trip others and shame others and to be exploiting others. The healing journey for an empath would be to question the narcissist, to not obey to others, to not get sucked into this groupthink and have your own judgment. So if we had the narcissist being Kim Jong-un from North Korea and the empaths being the people living in North Korea, working and obeying to Kim Jong-un, what would you say to the people obeying Kim Jong-un? You would say, question your leader. Don't take everything that is being said as true. Realize that there are people willing to exploit from you, willing to take from you whatever they can, having no moral compass or any intention of doing better for you, only doing better for themselves. So what would help the empaths, the people working and obeying towards this narcissistic Kim Jong-un, would be to question him and to learn that I got to escape from this country. I got to escape from this place. And if you're stuck in a cult, it will be to escape from the cult and then grow for Kim Jong-un, the spiritual leader. We could describe the spiritual leader as Kim Jong-un, the followers, and the empaths as the people that follow. We should realize that for Kim Jong-un, for a toxic spiritual leader, a Zen Devil, he needs to take accountability. He needs to be able to look within and instead of blaming others, learn to blame himself. Learn to see where his faults are and where he needs to grow and where he is acting devilish instead of wanting good for others. And I think most of you that are watching are more like empaths, and I think you should be more able to question and get out of groupthink, get out of places that are like a cult. For narcissists to take accountability, it's very hard, and it's likely not gonna happen. The likelihood that Kim Jong-un will ever change and ever will take accountability is very small. So it's better to escape North Korea than waiting for the leader to take accountability. I think this is a very in-depth video. We got really deep into Zen Devil. I might make a part 3, I'm not sure yet, but if you want to see it, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and I will see you in the next video.